Schleisman and meteorologist Henry Blakes. Your first news of the night starts right now on West Dakota Fox News at 9.
Well, details are unfolding about how police managed to track down the man charged with the murders of 4 RJR maintenance and management employees in Mandan last week. The suspect, 44-year-old Chad Isaac, was living in a mobile home community in Washburn, managed by RJR, though the motive is still unknown. Daniela Hurtado breaks down the court documents that helped investigators crack the case.
Police and state agents continue to piece together last week's murders. While authorities were at the scene Monday at RJR, we now have information where the man accused of killing the 4 victims was during the same time frame. Let's take a step back. Police say Monday morning, Chad Isaac is accused of entering RJR around 6:47 in the morning and then leaving shortly after 7. The court affidavit says security footage shows Isaac leaving in an RJR vehicle and parking it at Indigo Signs. Surveillance video shows Isaac walking from Indigo Signs westbound towards the bowling alley and then towards Bill Barth Ford. The affidavit says the accused is then seen turning and walking southbound on Red Wing Drive on the west side of Bill Barth Ford. Isaac drops out of surveillance video until he shows up, getting into a white pickup truck at McDonald's and then pulling into Ron Lohman car dealership and staying there for a few minutes. The truck is seen leaving the lot westbound on Memorial Highway through Main Street and then seen again at Flying J truck stop before merging into Highway 25 North. The truck was then spotted in center around 8:30 Monday morning. At this time, law enforcement was already on scene at RJR. The first call came a little before 7:30 in the morning for a medical call. As for Isaac's truck, it was seen again through video in Washburn along Highway 200 at 9 a.m. On Thursday, law enforcement in McLean County recognized the truck after getting photos. Isaac was detained and arrested later that day.
Well, now on the eve of the memorial service for the 4 victims, let's take a deeper look at who they were and what they meant to those who loved them. During Friday's news conference, Robert Faulkner's widow, Jackie, made heartfelt statements about each member of the RJR family that was lost that day. Adam Fuhrer, William and Lois Cobb.
Adam was quiet, loyal, an all-around family man. He loved his camping, nature, and spending time with his children. Bill loved cheering for the hockey teams, farming and hunting. Bill was Elvis's #1 fan. Lois brought joy into work every morning, greeting everybody with, "You are my sunshine."
And her beloved husband of 33 years and RJR owner, Robert Faulkner.
He was my husband, my kiss in the morning to wake me up, the best father to his kids, the great son to his mom, and the grandchildren will be missing their papa.
The joint memorial service is tomorrow at 11 a.m. at Bismarck Community Church. And 2 separate GoFundMe pages have been set up to support several of the victims' families. A campaign to help Adam Fuhrer's wife and 2 sons has raised over $800 on its way to the goal of $10,000. Bree Miller, the daughter of William and Lois Cobb, has raised over $10,000 with a goal of $100,000 to help with funeral expenses and travel expenses for her family and her siblings. Well, Henry, what will the weather be like for those memorials tomorrow?
Hey, weather looking pretty good to start out, but things are going to change as the storm system takes shape and impacts the viewing area on Wednesday. But for Tuesday, things are looking good across the first warned viewing area. Right now, we're talking about showers and storms across the southeast and some moisture pushing into the Pacific Northwest in association with that storm system that's going to impact some of us come Wednesday. Right now, some showers pushing toward the Grand Forks area, racing south and east, but the first warm viewing area remains dry. We're still in the 50s for many of us, 45 for Jamestown and Williston, 53 for Bismarck. The wind has let up. Now it's light out of the northwest between 5 and 15 miles per hour. Looking at your overnight forecast, we're talking about temperatures going to be mostly in the 30s with a light northwest wind. The rest of your forecast coming up later on.
Thanks, Henry. Well, in an unprecedented move, the president designated a powerful arm of the Iranian military as a foreign terrorist organization. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo saying it should surprise no one. Omar Jimenez explains how the change may impact American troops.
The administration is designating Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a foreign terrorist organization.
With this designation, the Trump administration is simply recognizing a basic reality.
It's the first time the United States has ever given that title to part of another government.
We're doing it because the Iranian regime's use of terrorism as a tool of statecraft makes it fundamentally different from any other government.
Iran is reciprocating, officially designating U.S. military operating in the region as terrorist groups.
Most previous administrations, including military and intelligence officials, concluded that the gain was not worth what we would risk.
These tensions are the latest tensions between the two countries, but not the only. It comes almost a year after the U.S. pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal, reimposing sanctions on the country, just weeks after the U.S. recognized Israeli control of the Golan Heights, and on the eve of Israel's presidential election. Iran's foreign minister tweeting, "Another misguided election eve gift to Netanyahu, another dangerous U.S. misadventure in the region."
It's basically adding a label. It's not actually adding new sanctions, so it doesn't get you much, but what it does get you potentially is provoking a retaliation from the Iranians.
The United States' terror designation for Iran's Revolutionary Guard officially begins April 15th. In Washington, I'm Omar Jimenez.
Well, both senators, John Hoeven and Kevin Cramer, support this designation, saying Iran has a history of violence and assisting and funding terrorist activities. Hoeven says this designation helps put maximum pressure on Iran as part of our efforts to stop terrorist activities and deter its aggressive behavior, while Cramer stated it will assist in depriving Iran of resources used for terrorism and allow our government to treat them like the leading state sponsor of terror that they are. And 3 U.S. soldiers and 1 contractor were killed by an improvised explosive device near Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan today. According to the U.S. military, the Taliban claimed credit for the attack, which involved a car bomb targeting a U.S. military convoy near one of America's largest military facilities there. 3 other U.S. soldiers who were wounded in the incident were evacuated and are receiving medical care. On the home front, major changes were announced in the Department of Homeland Security. DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen resigned yesterday after tensions have been high between her and the president regarding border security. CBP Commissioner Kevin McAleenan will become the acting secretary. President Trump also reportedly firing U.S. Secret Service Director Randolph Alice, who reported directly to Nielsen. Some Washington insiders say it's the result of Stephen Miller's new role in leading Trump administration border policies. One official said more firings are expected. Well, Fort Rice man is charged with assaulting an officer and reckless endangerment. 67-year-old Stephen Johnson is accused of pointing a pocket knife at a group of men at a Bismarck hotel yesterday. He refused to put it down, prompting an officer to hit his hand, knocking the knife to the ground. Documents say he yelled profanities at officers, charged at them, and kicked an officer in the groin. And a Bismarck man has been charged with assaulting police officers and resisting arrest. Prosecutors say police were responding to a call of a suicidal person on March 25th, but 43-year-old Corey Conmee held back a man officers were trying to speak to, and a fight ensued. Police say they forced their way in to separate the two and had to use a stun gun to subdue Conmee. As they tried to restrain him, he kicked them in the head. Well, legislators agree they need to expand the number of qualifying conditions for the medical marijuana program, but they're having difficulty coming to a consensus. Minot Representative Matt Ruby says the House was convinced by their research, which showed marijuana reduced the need for opioids for certain patients. Fargo Senator Kristen Rower says Senate research doesn't agree.
I think that having medical marijuana as an option for certain disorders will help us to decrease our opioid use and therefore prevent future addictions rather than working at it from the back end once they're already addicted.
This bill will take multiple meetings to iron out, but committee members say something will come out with a due pass. Well, with the opioid epidemic comes a rise in pharmacy robberies. CVS is introducing time delay mechanisms on their safes that store opiates to deter thieves. The safes, which are currently in 5 states and the District of Columbia, have to be accessed by a pharmacist. But then there's a waiting period, which will hopefully discourage a robbery and protect employees. CVS first began using the time delay safes in 2015 in Indianapolis and saw a 70% decline in pharmacy robberies in a year. Well, a bill to reinvest Medicaid dollars into tribal health care is in trouble after its first conference committee hearing. It could save the state about $7.5 million and give the tribes more money for health-related costs. The fight is over whether tribes should receive 50% of the total savings or 70%.
If it's not going to be at the 70-30 mark, I fully believe that the tribes will not be in support of that. So, at this point, we're looking at, not even having future agreements come out of this.
The care coordination agreements are voluntary. And parents may soon have more places to safely abandon their babies without fear of prosecution. A bill working its way through a conference committee would give the state health department leadership over the program. State health officer Mylin Tufte, who was abandoned as an infant herself, says this bill will protect families.
If we're prepared, lives could be saved. And resources and time could be focused where we need it because we have a plan in place. The anxiety, the pain, the grief of a tragic event could be avoided.
And a bill heading to conference committee would prevent local governments from making it more difficult for private industry to open feedlots. If it houses more than 300 animals, state law says feedlots must be at least a half mile from other buildings. Some cities want to be able to move them back farther. Backers of the bill say it will protect both the state's livestock industry and farmers. Well, the geese on the Enchanted Highway get to fly another day. Their story after the break.
And we're looking at nice weather across the Bismarck, Mandan area, but come Wednesday, some of you may be dealing with a little bit of frozen precipitation. I have your forecast after the break.
As North Dakota faces a workforce shortage, job service employees say the inability to accurately calculate the cost of living has deterred potential workers. Their website now offers a cost of living service that breaks down average housing, grocery, and even child care for each county, which can be an eye-opener for some people.
You might find that you don't have quite as much to complain about as you thought. Because I hear that a lot, the cost of living here is so high, but if you use this calculator, you might be surprised.
Hickel says costs have increased across the state, especially in the Northwest region, where there are still 30% more jobs available that offer $25 an hour. The state average is just over $23. Well, USDA is investing $485 million to upgrade rural electric systems and reduce energy costs. Central Power Electric Cooperative, that serves over 61,000 customers in North Dakota, is receiving a $68.3 million loan for improvements. And North Electric Cooperative, Inc. will receive a $24.8 million loan to improve their coverage in South Dakota and one North Dakota county. It's expected to benefit thousands of customers and help enhance rural economic development. Well, as far as property taxes go, a North Dakota League of Cities report puts Mandan near the middle of the pack among the state's 12 largest cities. City Administrator Jim Neubauer says the City Commission has adapted a policy to put them in that ideal spot. Residents' property tax statements include the City of Mandan, the Park District, the School District, and Morton County. So the city will set a budget accordingly. Neubauer says shopping locally helps lower their property tax bill. And Minot has the highest property taxes, Bismarck ranks third, and Watford City has the lowest. And Governor Doug Burgum signed a bill today that exempts military retirement benefits from state income tax, one of his budget proposals to address the workforce shortage. Burgum says it encourages military personnel to work in North Dakota after retirement. It improves the state's competitiveness for federal military investments and honors our veterans. Well, after a legal battle lasting more than a year, the Geese in Flight metal sculpture along I-94, called the Enchanted Highway, will stay. Creator Gary Greff says he purchased the land from Seth and Kayla O'Donnell. The state will chip in up to $250,000 for maintenance, as long as Greff matches that with private funds. The Red River in Fargo-Moorhead is working toward its peak for the flooding season, predicted to crest at 35 feet, which is about 17 feet over flood stage. It's already swelling up large sections of the metro area along the river and testing the city's new flood wall system. The United States Geological Survey measured the river yesterday, and it'll be one for the record books, showing water flowing at 19,500 cubic feet per second. Well, will that precipitation coming this week affect them, Henry?
Well, with precipitation right now for the moment is going to be impacting mainly South Dakota and viewers near the North and South Dakota state line. Winter storm watch goes into effect Wednesday morning and continues through Thursday morning for all of South Dakota into the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, northern Nebraska, and eastern Wyoming and parts of southeastern Montana. And this is due to the chance of accumulating wet snow. Now, there is a pretty decent chance of 2 or more inches. Notice especially as you get to the Rapid City area where the area shaded in red, this is where we're expecting the more heavier to moderate snow accumulation. There's a 90 to 100% chance of that. About a 50% chance of 2 or more inches of snow along the North and South Dakota state line, but our South Dakota viewers are going to be getting the brunt of the storm. Now, what about 8 or more inches? Once again, South Dakota, but there will be a chance of, like I said, accumulating snow near the state line, and that even goes into southeastern Montana. Right now, nothing like that going on, just some showers pushing into the Grand Forks area, quickly racing to the southeast, just some light to moderate rain at times. Overall, we're not expecting anything terrible out of that batch. Currently, our temperatures, Grand Forks, you're at 47, Bismarck's at 53, 50 for Minot and Dickinson, 45 for Jamestown, Williston, Baker at 49, 47 in Sydney. Notice the wind. Yes, it's been quite a blustery day, but the wind has finally let up. So for right now, northwest wind 5 to 15 miles per hour, and it should get even lighter later on tonight. Still remaining mild, even with the wind. The wind made it feel a little cooler than it actually was, but temperatures did get up there for today. Now, for tonight, start to see some increasing clouds across Montana and far southwestern North Dakota. Then we get the chance of showers coming to play in the morning across the southwestern first warn viewing area, then gradually pushing into portions of south central North Dakota and north central South Dakota. Just some rain showers expected this time around with the wave, but Tuesday night into Wednesday is where we'll have to watch out for things. But for tomorrow, east wind 5 to 15. Temperatures already nearing 50 degrees for many of us by the noon hour. And then afterwards, just still watching that chance of showers across the same portions. I think the north is going to remain dry for tomorrow, but the southwest is definitely where the showers are going to be, and the south central region. So for tonight, corrected that for you. No precipitation for tonight. So partly cloudy, northwest wind around 5 miles per hour. Lows near freezing. Highs tomorrow mainly in the 50s with the chance of showers across the south and increasing clouds. Looking at the week ahead, yes, we will be spared for the way things are looking right now from the major winter storm. But like I said, across the south, that's where the accumulation would be. After that, we look pretty good as we head into the weekend.
Smooth sailing, Henry. Well, double the amount of kids are experiencing suicidal thoughts, and experts may know why. Details after the break. Consumer Reports says the Fisher-Price Rock and Play infant swing is linked to at least 32 deaths and want it taken off the market. The swing is designed for babies to sleep on an incline, and the Consumer Product Safety Commission issued a warning about it last week, recommending consumers stop using it as soon as the baby can roll over or at 3 months old. Fisher-Price says it meets all applicable safety standards. Well, the number of adolescents in the U.S. who visited the ER for suicidal thoughts and attempts has doubled between 2007 and 2015, according to the CDC. Natasha Chen asked mental health experts why.
In 2007, more than 500,000 children between the ages of 5 and 18 went to the emergency room for a suicide attempt or for suicidal thoughts. 8 years later, in 2015, that doubled to more than 1 million. Nearly half of them were between ages 5 and 11.
Unfortunately, the results from this study are no surprise.
Mental health experts agree there are multiple reasons for this.
There's tremendous pressure on young people now to be popular. How many friends do you have on Snapchat, Facebook? There's increase of cyberbullying.
Also, pressure to get into increasingly competitive schools. Parents and guardians are stressed too.
Look at how they're modeling how they deal with stress, how much are they tuning out or drinking alcohol at night.
And there aren't many resources for children who are struggling. Data from the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry shows the majority of the country faces a severe shortage of providers, fewer than 17 for every 100,000 children. Meanwhile, experts suggest some strategies at home.
Let your child fail. Let them take risks so that way they learn how to deal with it and they learn how to be successful on their own.
Limit social media and build in quality time with family. In Washington, I'm Natasha Chen reporting.
A Tennessee couple struggling to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills for their son got an odd prescription. Angela and Randy Tyndall's 6-year-old son Jackson has had health problems since birth and still needs speech and occupational therapy and a feeding tube. Their insurance doesn't cover everything, so their doctor recommended they divorce to individually qualify for the state's Medicaid program.
What we really want is what's best for our son. And we want these therapies and these things now, and when he does turn 18, he can live a full life and be a productive member of society.
They are staying married and fighting for state legislature to make the program more available. Well, her colleagues thought she would make a great foster mom, but she's so much more.
Giselle crossed my path in a stroller, and we locked eyes, and that was it.
A pediatric nurse speaking of her now 2-year-old daughter, Giselle. Liz Smith worked at the hospital where Giselle was born premature to a mother who had used drugs, and the baby had no visitors for several months. Nurses thought of Smith to foster, but it turned into so much more. Smith officially adopted Giselle in October. Well, it makes your heart melt a little bit there, Henry.
Yeah, it sure does. Great way to end the newscast. We've got a chance of showers, mainly during the second half of the day for tomorrow across the southwest, then into portions of south central North Dakota. But hey, we will be talking about that potential winter storm mainly for South Dakota viewers, but we'll be watching that on Wednesday.
So we got to watch out a little bit and then smooth sailing after that.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much. Have a good night.